Can you still love you like that? What if transformation isn't something we reach, but step into? This new moon in Capricorn is an invitation to look at how our reactions to the world around us inform the directions we continue to take. By shifting perspective from survival and repetition to responsibility, presence, and conscious choice, we are being offered a steadier form of universal law, one rooted in integrity, courage, and self-respect of the path we have experienced, where real change doesn't arrive through force, condemnation, or fix-ation of our wounds, but the willingness to love ourselves enough to walk alongside them. I don't want to focus on the external, the imbalances of law and injustices I continue to see and write about around me. The over-commercialism, be it clothes, information, opinions, or even at times healing, as if in this exhausted economy we somehow have money to burn. The struggles that so many, myself included, are currently facing whilst juggling, it would seem, several possible realities. I don't want to concentrate on the uniquely different, yet somehow rigid views visible in our collective avoidant understandings, or think about the lack of boundaries from inauthentic leaders grabbing what doesn't belong to them, be that land, algorithms, or personal space. I can sense the emergency, of course, the urgency to acknowledge areas that I know very little about, to fit in with, be safe, avoid the subsequent familiar abuse, and restyle who I am. And I'm tired of repetition, giving my power, attention, and energy to aspects that continue to remain the same, just because it is deemed I should from others, alongside my own low worth, guilt trip, and subsequent pain this demand speaks to. So instead, I've connected to the lyrics for This New Moon blog, sung by an individual that was never recognised for his talents, opening myself up to what I can and in this am being asked to do, once I can get past my own doubts, from a far greater force than limited expectations. Originally planning to use the song You Can't Touch This by MC Hammer, it was only in working with the element of fire through my own magical training recently that I've been guided to take a different angle into this energetic potential. The hot stepper forward to recognizing the change available, found by concentrating on all the reflections now possible. For me, this has included a monthly market where so many, myself included, are now offering their services to the local community, rather than keeping them for a select few and price tag. The piece Travelling Monks, an embodiment of the full year if ever I saw it, guided by a small dog, a loca, whose very name symbolises light. The old versions of myself rising with insecurities at their own demise. And the universal law we can no longer ignore from within. It is our perspective that causes change, making it essential we collectively look at where we may be multiplying rather than evolving from our wounds. With these truths, I feel more grounded, less destructive in my actions towards myself and subsequently others, as I remember the energy and sacred flame keeper I came here to be. Of first my own light, then from there guardianship of the feminine within and around me. Realizing, no, respecting, I can not only walk through fire with a certificate to prove it, but maintain an albeit small spark at times of what I'm here to take forward. Today, as I find myself working with a neuro-linguistic programming course, assessing the submodalities of reality, whilst also feeling into the wisdom rising from my recent compassionate resilience session, I've decided it is the extraordinary I'm going to focus on. Which doesn't always mean softness, a lack of courage, passivity, avoidance, complacency, or apathy, but the bravery to be present with what is, for which a far greater understanding from us all is required, as the notion of witnessing and holding space demands more respect, be that for the opportunities of authenticity, the importance of self-awareness, the honouring of well-being, or the undisputable, karmic, infinitely powerful magic of love. Not by removing ourselves from a situation, but simply appreciating, with heart-based understanding, our individual place within it, and how this, we, have always been enough. Something we will each need to settle into when considering our goals and intentions with the upcoming new moon in Capricorn. Dependent on how much we are willing to receive, it will provide a defining serious moment of aspirations that will guide us each towards conflict resolutions internally, particularly regarding the view we have of ourselves and the impact we offer by beingness. As survival-based realities, for some since childhood, now wish to transform and become the light that takes them forward. Not by healing or changing them, but embracing once again there is nothing to fear but ourselves. Leaving the exhausted, remaining a glimmer of hope, grit, and determination left after what has been an incredibly eye-opening month, encouraging us all to take meaningful steps towards our objective. These could appear insignificant. We may feel small and under-reliable or vulnerable in the current plight of the world. But transition never comes when we are ready, and despite what we are regularly encouraged to believe, most change just happens. Like beginnings ride on the back of endings, so too will the upcoming shift of the soul-shedding snake year into the necessary herd-like evolution of humanity. Because the work needed to move things on so far has been done, and we must trust this, ourselves, regardless what we see playing out around us. Whilst we are in it together, there will be emphasis on every individual aspect needed to maintain such vision. Be that animalistic light now walking a path of peace as white flower seeds of innocence are falling to the earth and going global. The illusion and trickery 2026 will bring to our attention regarding leaders or our own closer to home reactions as a result. We are all part of the reality being created, highlighted by Sun in Capricorn the same day and its subsequent movement into Aquarius shortly after, suggesting this collective, untapped, at least by ourselves, energy of collaboration become what it is always meant to be. The expanded psyche that will bring forth something different through the emotions that fuel it, alongside the heart coherence necessary to release the restraints of our own judgments on ourselves and moreover the projection of external actions. Many have for decades held space with, or even, often without realizing, as compassion. Whilst this vulnerability is sought to support growth, the reality they have chosen to uphold and be part of with humility alongside the then necessary carrying of what others could not is ending. Whilst it doesn't need to come with conflict or antagonism, this ceasing will all depend on one thing: conscious connection and the responsibilities we must each now take for ourselves through the presence and recognition of every role we have played in the scenarios unfolding so far. This isn't about judgment, good or bad, us versus them, but a global gravitation towards healing and the initiation of the peaceful warrior within, that awaits to know before responding, but also remembers how to act as needed, in a way that is going to be different for everyone based on the skill sets we have discovered. That being said, like the Wheel of Fortune goes up and the Magician brings aspects down, we can anticipate things to be more apparent in their opposition, particularly with Neptune entering Aries at the end of the month. Those who fought may need rest, while the witness amongst us will be called to walk their talk. But Even this may not be as obvious or simple as it seems, as any beliefs around what has or hasn't been done come under the cosmic microscope. Expect to be shown where your actions may not be as aligned to the highest good or even misaligned as you would have hoped. For this is the way of the Heyoka, the fully embodied medicinal shamanic primal masculine voice of the earth that defends creativity, life, healing in all of its forms, not through words, deeds, or thoughts, but appreciation. Embodied communication as the existence or at times existential chaos. Magic it is. Here the new moon in Capricorn brings forth its greatest initiation, the opportunity to set practical goals by first working and developing our own divine maturity with self-discipline and a bit more physical common sense. Aligning with Mercury, Mars and Pluto, and with Venus in Aquarius sextile Saturn, trine Neptune and opposite Jupiter, long-term views of our future, be that business, relationships or health, are ready. The question is, are we prepared to remove ourselves from the hook of martyrdom and bypassing, recognizing the many ways we shirk responsibility? After all, projection is but a reflection of internal reality. Can we take those first steps, acknowledging only in doing so we will gain the confidence to continue forward? By applying all we have discovered and moving beyond our own knowledge to the wisdom waiting the other side of this dark side of the moon, soul, year, fill in the gap. The answer resides in how willing we are to open, not to our potential, learning, spirit, or even each other, but joy. Yes, I said it. Happiness. An uncommon, unpopular opinion in what can feel absurd during our current times. But the reality is we are being expanded open. We need to be. And moreover, we can decide how and when, because this is the medicine of the sacred clown, and at times the only power we have. Choice that can recognize whilst change is constant, and actions will be decided by how they are individually received. It is globally how they move us that will become the freedom needed to both inspire and ensure we are fab you are ready in preparation for the next full moon in Leo. At the time of Imbolc, spring, self-expression, growth and renewal, transforming us through this sacred space between them for the Chinese New Year and shift of humanity's mentality by the 17th. Until this, Saturn sextile Uranus on the 20th January, the final of 3 in a set, helps events to build character, make of that what you will, whilst giving us time to digest any lessons through solid, meaningful progress. Combining stability, improvement, but also the much needed excitement of tradition and innovation hinted at with the beginning of the month. Of course, as mentioned earlier, with Neptune leaving Pisces and entering the Warrior, now is a moment to really define what that means. How clearly can we see ourselves? Where are we in battle with our own outdated beliefs? Are we willing to take a knee or allow an inflated, insecure sense of external importance to continue to rage on, to the detriment not only of those around us, but the original vision we may have forgotten beneath the fake, or rather wounded, image of self? A great time for reflecting and closing if we can honour the inspirational potential available as an opportunity, recognising we are all being motivated, one way or another, to create something different. We may just need more focus and to follow through on the path we came here to walk, instead of ensuring others are on theirs, no matter how well-meaning. With the sun entering Aquarius a day later, it becomes less what we achieve, but who with, as the collective energy begins to take the wheel. Say goodbye to personal goals and hello to divine direction. Meaning we may not always know why, but we will sense an infinite call for us to rise that will fire up our drive to connect by the 23rd, as Mars also joins the Sun in the sign of the Visionary through to the 2nd of March. In order to create systemic change, Starting, of course, from within, we must respect this includes our actions and start journeying towards what we wish to see in the world. That doesn't mean it will be easy. Short term, at least, to quote many a country song, nobody said it would be. Revolution often takes courage and continuity, but the reality is, in the long run, the alternative is much more difficult. Whether that's relationships that lack reciprocity, employment that's restrictive, beliefs that limit us in our comfort zones, continued poverty, educational systems that are failing, the corporation of well-being, or a world at war. By the end of the month, we can expect to receive a, for some, lengthy crash course in spiritual firepower, especially if we haven't put in any options beforehand, as a turning point, or at least the foundation of one, by the next new moon, year, vision, or realization. By knowing they are all related, the steps, elements, animals, lunar stages, zodiac archetypes, external, internal, and finally embracing this unity consciousness seed for the direction it will bring. As we come together, we reorientate ourselves with greater clarity and commitment, start to define success on what works for all, ourselves included, provided we can cut the distractions and power we have been giving away to what doesn't, whilst building structures that reflect our current values and desires over those that may have been handed to us. In exploring boundaries, embracing our quirks, and discovering how this uniqueness can contribute to the collective evolution, we will honour not only the experiences we have gained, but the routes we take forward. However, as Mercury also joins Aquarius from the 20th, is going to take some thinking out of the box and opening to unfamiliar, at times challenging perspectives, particularly around ourselves. If we want to make something other than solutions or sense where there are none at present, especially through our own rigid ideas and opinions, we must acknowledge whether they or we are serving our community and humanity, moving towards a more fulfilling purpose that is not only relevant for us and our own healing, but empowering to others. Now is the time to step back and gain a more objective perspective, as we are each guided through what was once a survival-based passive adaptation to more active creation, ultimately taking responsibility for the shape of life we are making with the flow or resistance of our own actions. Aligning ambition with meaning, forming a minor grand trine with Mercury and Mars in Capricorn, Uranus in Taurus, and Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, this new moon is set to disrupt outdated fixations through flashes of inspiration, offering innovative yet tangible opportunities by softening the force and allowing intuition and imagination to become more strategic in any practical planning we may have had to be accountable for. There are different ways to do things, none of them better or worse, just different. All is valid on this great path home, but we must choose the route we now wish to take and acknowledge it is this decision that provides the first step always in the direction of karma. Linked to the third decan, the highest place of an all-seeing vision, it is our ability to reflect on the past and not only feel into but evaluate the future that will define and help us respect where we are coming from, alongside any outcome as a result. Appealing to us all to look at the wisdom that will be spoken for generations to come around the metaphorical fire of our existence. Linked to the Four of Pentacles in the Tarot, it is the scarcity and at times hoarding of our own vision that is about to get an overhaul. As we appreciate the accumulation of our situation, whilst releasing any strongholds that restrict this, be it unrealistic intentions or overzealous, undefined, and therefore disembodied leadership. Happening at 1952 on the 18th of January in the UK, we have the vibration of the Fool, High Priestess, Hierophant, Chariot, Strength, Hermit, Wheel of Fortune, Justice, Star, Sun, and Magician overall, offering us the first real look of the year ahead, the potential, lessons, insights, stages, and necessary changes available, through the courage it takes to listen to our own internal reflections, for the balance, planning, direction, and vision they ensure, by remembering not only to simply create with them, but that we always have. May we acknowledge it is the march we become part of that brings forth the revolution we seek. In deepest munay, I ask you now, best foot forward, right? You know where I am. Take care, Kirsty.